Hello, my name is Mildred. I'm the host and life coach of Let's Be Real About It. It's a talk show, and this show is where we can be true and we can be real about life issues. We can speak about the traumatic and devastating things that have occurred in our lives or that may be occurring right now at this present time. We will talk with people from all races, all cultures, all religions, all nationalities, because hurt, pain, devastation, and traumatic experience has the ability to affect us all. It doesn't care. It crosses boundaries. It has no respect to person. So nobody is exempt from it. So it's time that we face the truth. It's time that we be real about the truth. It's time that we face life and stop passing the buck, as it say, or the buck, as it say. It's time to stop pointing the finger. It's time to be real. It's time to be real about what's happening in your life. It's time to be real about the issues in your life, because I know you, like me, want to be delivered and want to be set free and healed. And this is your opportunity. So let's be real about life. Let's be real about what's happening in your life. Let's be real about the life situations. God bless. Hello and welcome to Let's Be Real About It, where we are real about real life issues. I'm your host, Mildred Towns. This is our disclaimer. This is a no holds barred zone. Therefore, some of the contents of the show may be offensive to some, but that is not the intent of the show. But before I introduce my guest, I want to introduce you to my book, Truth. My Closet Secrets Revealed. This is my autobiography of my life story. And I want you to order the book just so that you can read it and you don't make the same mistakes in life that I made growing up. And I want to introduce you to my brochure, Hear Me, A Cry from the Wound, for anybody who's of childbearing age and you considering having an abortion. Please order this before you make that final decision. You will not regret it. I guarantee you will not regret it. Please send me an email to iheartministries@gmail.com, and I will send you the information on how to get the book, how to order the book. And I do want to thank my sponsors, Zion City of Deliverance, and our anonymous sponsor, and J&K Style Grill.
What up, y'all? Boy, back on stage. We here at J&K Style and Grill with my main man.
J&K Style Grill, home of the original waffle burger, stuffed wings, and Philly steak egg roll.
The food was amazing, man. I'm talking about collard green stuffed chicken, mac and cheese stuffed chicken, waffle burger with the special sauce.
With the special sauce.
Come on, man. What are you doing if you ain't eating here? You're wasting your life.
Pull up.
J&K Style Grill, you can copy the style,
but never the best.
We got it.
We got it.
I'm excited about my special guest tonight. My special guest for tonight is Patricia Williams, and I want to welcome her to the show. Welcome to the show, Patricia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Glad that you came to be on the show tonight. So tell us about yourself and tell us about your book. But before you go there, I titled this show tonight, By the Grace of God, because truly it's by the grace of God that you sit here right now today to tell your story. So, so I just titled it By the Grace of God. So go ahead and introduce yourself and introduce your book.
Okay. My name is Evangelist Patricia L. Williams. And my book is called Triumphant Victory. And it's about a story about God's unconditional love, mercy, and intervention. And believe me, that subtitle is really what it's all about.
Amen, amen, amen. So just to tell a little bit about your childhood, you grew up in Toledo, Ohio. Your parents got divorced. Your father was a religious person and your mother was an alcoholic. Your father was awarded custody of you and your brother, Ronnie. your paternal grandmother cared for the two of you, cared for you and Ronnie. You stated that your grandmother ran a brothel house. And so, for anyone who don't know what that is, it's a house where people can visit to have sex. And you also
Yes.
stated that your grandmother turned tricks, and that they told you that you can be an old man's doll. So I want you to talk
Yes.
about this.
Well, yes, they were trying to influence me the wrong way. They told me I had the looks and I was young and that I could, be involved with an old man, and then, he would give me everything that I wanted, material things. But I told them no, I was not interested in doing that. I would rather get married one day and my husband and I work at getting whatever we wanted.
Amen. So yeah, I can understand that, but that's kind of funny that your grandmother would turn the tricks too. That she would
Yep.
turn the tricks. So after graduating high school, your father moved you out of your grandmother's house, due to your grandmother's lifestyle, into your own apartment. Uh,
Yeah.
so you were set up on a blind date. So this is how you met your husband. You were set
Yeah.
up on a blind date with your brother and this girl named Charlene.
Yeah.
Uh, so you met Joe.
Yes.
So you stated in the book that that Joe thought he was going to be on the date with Charlene, but Charlene was actually your brother's date.
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah, so to me, he kind of got disappointed, that Charlene was not his date. So you made the statement that you was going to your car, that you were getting in the car, and you kind of stumbled and you grabbed a hold of his arm, to balance you, and he pulled his arm away. So I want to say this to anybody who's dating, who's old enough to date, and you're dating, be careful about the red flags, because if you're stumbling and you're falling and you go to grab hold of the man and he's pulling himself away from you, like he said, you just hit the floor, all I care. That's a red flag. That
Yes.
is a red flag.
Yes.
So you described Joe as being 6 feet, really nice physique. He
Hmm.
always looked nice regardless of what he wore. And
Yes.
he was very charming. And
Yes.
I said that he knew he was a ladies man, because you made the statement after you guys got married, that he said any woman would want me. So
Yes, he did.
that's another red flag, because if
Yeah.
you're dating and he looked good, he know he looked good, and he come off with that statement, any woman would want me, that's that red flag, and you better turn and you better run.
Yes, but unfortunately, he said it after I got married. If he would
Yeah,
have
that's what I
said
said,
it,
after you
yeah,
got
but
married,
if he would have said it before I got married, you're right. I would have ran. Yes.
but you even made the statement too, that you all didn't kind of hit it off, on that first day, but eventually he did call you,
Yes.
and you all did go out on an initial date, and
Yes.
you all fell in love. You got married in 1967,
Yes.
and you all had 3 kids. You had one son and 2 daughters,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. And as a child, Joe growing up, one thing that he saw was that his parents fought a lot.
Yes.
And you stated that Joe's father was a womanizer as well. So
Yes.
after you all got married and you had your first child, you wanted to be a stay-home mom with your first newborn, but the news didn't go well with your husband, with
No.
Joe. So
No.
talk about this.
Well, it was terrible. I had a brand new newborn baby girl, and my husband wanted me to return to work right away. I didn't have anybody to care for her, so I knew that I didn't have any business trying to go back to work and just throw her to anybody. So I told him no, that I would not go back to work right then, that I was going to stay home and take care of my baby. And you know something? God blessed us even the more because I stayed home. The money he thought he lost from me not working, God blessed us more than abundantly with money because I made the decision to stay home with my infant daughter.
So, so when when you talk to your husband about staying home, so what did he tell you? He told you not to cook for him, that you can't sleep with him.
Yes, he really did. I was shocked. He told me not to cook for him and not to sleep with him, all because I wouldn't go back to work and I had that young infant child. And I thought he would have understood that, but it didn't matter because God dealt with me and God let me know that I needed to stay home with my baby, and I did.
So there was times when you would go to a church group because you and him both were saved. He's an elder in the church. He was an elder in the church before he passed
Yeah.
away. He was an elder in the church, and you was an evangelist. So
Yeah.
there were times that you would go to a church group meeting, and your husband would call you and tell you that it's time to come home, that you have been at the meeting long enough. Now you stated that that embarrassed you, but for peace sake, that you would leave and you would go home.
Yes.
You also stated that he would tell you that you can't drive the car or go anywhere unless he gave you permission because everything in the house belonged to him. I want you to talk about that, and I want you to talk about how you felt emotionally and where was your self esteem at that time, because here you are a grown woman and you got this man telling you that you can't go anywhere or drive a car unless he give you permission to do that because everything in the house belonged to him. So talk about that.
Yes, I was really, really disappointed in him for having that kind of attitude because I worked hard. I contributed, of course, too. I don't know who he thought cleaned the house up and cooked his meals and took care of the children. And really, I knew that was a point of him just trying to control me. And no, I didn't like it, but I didn't allow it to bother my self-esteem. Actually, most of my life, I've always had good self-esteem. The only time my self-esteem was low was when I got sick that time I told you about, which we'll deal about later.
Yeah. So, so your family didn't like him bossing you around. Neither did his family.
No, they did not. Mm-mm.
So why? So what would they say to you about him bossing you around?
They told me I should not let him do that. Because I realized I was an adult too, but I didn't want to be arguing and fussing in front of our children. And like I said, a lot of times, just for peace sake, I just come on home. But I knew he was being controlling. I knew that.
So was it hard for you to, deal with that controlling? I'm just gonna call it a controlling spirit.
At times it was, yes.
Okay. So one day you informed your husband that you were going to the store to buy some milk for the kids, and you turned to walk off. The next thing you knew that you were down on the floor and he was beating you repeatedly and violently with his fist in your head. So I want you to talk about that.
Yes, that was such a shocking experience for me. I couldn't believe it because all I did was inform him that I was going to get milk for the children because we were out of, milk for them. And I never thought that he would do anything like that, but he did. And at the time, I'm kind of going with you looking back a little bit. I didn't even know that really that was called the domestic violence that he did to me. I didn't learn that till later. So I didn't have
that these type beatings went on for 40 years.
Well, not actually beatings all the time, but yes, I did have several beatings. And he was also domestic violence is also psychological abuse. And there's another one they call too, but I can't think of it right now. But in other words, you're abused in more than one way. They work on your self-esteem and everything. It's still abuse.
Because that's what I was going to ask you. Talk about. So he verbally abused you, he physically
Yes,
abused you, psychologically abused you, mentally
yes,
abused you, and I
yes.
think maybe one time you mentioned the sexual abuse. Am I
Yeah,
correct with
one
that?
time he actually did a marital rape to me. And that really, now that bothered my self-esteem. That one did. Yes, because I couldn't figure out how he could bother me while I'm asleep,
And you
and
not
rape
know
me,
it.
and that, yeah. And I was in a deep sleep, and if you're sleeping on your side, that's access. And I was sleeping on my side, but I was really hurt, and it did really bother my self-esteem because to me, he treated me like I was some kind of prostitute or something, and not his wife. He didn't. That was no respect shown at all, and I was very, very upset about that.
Yeah, because a lot of people say there's no such thing as uh, rape in a marriage. But I had another person to come on the show, and she said the same thing concerning her husband, and I totally agree that there is such thing as a rape in a marriage because if you don't give consent to it,
That's right. That's right.
you didn't consent to it. You made the statement that you didn't even know that it even had happened.
No, I didn't know anything till the next morning until I got up. And I don't want to go into no detail. You know what I found?
Yeah, did he confess to it?
Of course not. He didn't even care. He just, I don't know. It's scary when I think about it. He just felt like I was his property, and that he could do whatever he wanted with me. But that's not the right mindset at all.
Now you said the reason that you stayed with him is because you loved him and forgave him, as the word commanded. And when you say as the word commanded, uh, kind
Yeah.
of quickly, kind of, break that down just quickly.
Okay. Well, anyway, in Mark 11th chapter in the 25th verse, it says, while you are praying, forgive. And also under there, it tells you that if you don't forgive somebody else, then God won't forgive you. And I believe in God's word from cover to cover. So that's why I kept forgiving him no matter what he did. Also because I loved him, and also because I wanted the children to have their father in their lives. So that's why I hung on all 40 years, no matter what happened.
So how did that affect the kids? The kids here are the kids that they see in their mother, abuse. So how did that affect them?
Oh, it affected them very much. But see, the stuff he did to me, he would tell the children if they told anybody that he, would like whip them. He was a very strict and harsh disciplinarian. Yes. So no, they knew not to say anything to anybody because he let them know that he would deal with them if they told anything that was going on in our household. And yes, they did see some of that. Yes.
So you made the statement in the book that while you were meditating and praying one day, you said to God concerning Joe, which is your
Mhm.
husband, you can't live with him, but you can't live without him either. Therefore, you dedicated your whole life to your God to work things out in the marriage. Uh,
Yeah.
Talk about this and talk about why you made that statement. And let me ask you this first of all: was it that you can't live without him, or you didn't want to live without him?
Well, I guess you could say, yeah, that I didn't want to. Of course, I wanted to stay in my marriage, not have to get a divorce. But this is what God told me, and it was wonderful. He told me, Pat, he said, even if you don't have Joe in your life, you still need me. And that's when I say, okay, God, I'm turning over my life to you to work things out. And God is right. If Joe and I would have got divorced, I still would have needed God.
You
So
still
God
would have
told
needed
me the
God.
right thing. Yes, he did.
So
Yes.
there were many times that you sought the advice of your pastor, Bishop James, and he would tell you to fast and he would tell you to pray. And
Hmm.
as he taught the church to worship God and praise him, no matter what you are going through. So one day, your husband gets angry and he went to the bishop's house. Look, he didn't call the bishop and say, "Bishop, can I meet you at the church?" He
No.
was angry. He goes to the bishop's house, step up on the bishop's step, and I know Bishop invited him in, and he told, to tell Bishop off and tell Bishop to stay out of my business.
Yes, he did.
That you stated in the book that he told
He
the
did.
bishop the only reason he married you was he could see that you were a godly woman and you would make a good wife, but you wasn't what he thought you would be, and he made a mistake in marrying you, and he wanted a divorce. See, but
Yeah.
now this is what I loved about Bishop. Bishop said, you're not gonna come up in my house, and you're not gonna come up in my house like this. So Bishop comes back at him, and Bishop said, if she could talk to you, she wouldn't have a need to talk to me. So everything
That's right.
talking to you. And
That's
Bishop
right.
said, you have a nerve to ask God to bless you with the best he have, but you're not the best yourself.
That's right.
And
Amen.
Bishop said, getting a divorce would be a mistake because you don't know what kind of wife you have. And Bishop
Yeah.
also told him, you need to ask God to show you yourself. And so
Yeah.
your husband asked God to show him himself, and
Yeah.
quickly tell us what your husband say, or what did your husband say to you concerning after God showed him himself.
Well, he came he was running up and down the steps, fussing and arguing at first, but after God showed him himself, he told me, he said, I don't know how you put up with me and how you were able to live with me. And at that point, I'm not kidding, we saw some spirits streak down our stairs at home because we were upstairs in a bedroom talking and praying at that time. Yes.
So then after you saw the spirit go down the steps, things got better between you and Joe and the children. Y'all went on vacation. Y'all did a whole lot of things.
Yes.
But then suddenly, all of a sudden, you went back to work. Things began to happen. You got busy, and all of a sudden, you had a breakdown.
Yes.
And you was coming out of the bathroom one day, and all of a sudden, the enemy began to talk to you. And my thing was, is this that same spirit that attacked her husband, that attacked her? And it's like this suicidal spirit came upon you. And then
Yes.
all of a sudden, you just throw yourself out of the second floor window.
Yes. But I need to back up on this. You need to hear this. Before I jumped through the window, my husband had taken me to church for the pastor to pray for me. And I didn't look like my usual self, how I usually keep myself up. And I'm not kidding. I felt all of these spirits like on me while I was at church. And I felt worse instead of better. You understand what I mean? So then when I got home, and then these spirits were talking to me in my head, right. Then I jumped through the second story window through the glass. That's true. And all these condemnations were coming against me that I had sinned against God, the bishop, my husband, and like that came in my mind. Yes.
So that was another guest on that was on this show, and she was talking about how that suicidal spirit was trying to get her, to commit suicide. So it convinced you through condemnation that you wouldn't embarrass the church, you wouldn't embarrass your husband, all this stuff, and then just suddenly out of nowhere,
yes,
jumped through the window.
That's right.
And from there, you go to the psych hospital.
Yeah,
and
the
you
psych.
were admitted.
Mm-hmm.
And how long did you stay there?
I'm not for sure now, but I think it was at least 2 weeks.
So you stayed there 2 weeks, and all together, you was at the psych ward for, you went back and forth 12 times.
Yes, yeah, I wound up going back and forth to the psych ward at least 12 times during my marriage. Yes.
So another thing that you talked about, that when you came out, you finally went back to church, that you was the topic of the conversation within the church, that people were calling you crazy. People were telling your kids that they're going to be crazy like their mom. And
Yeah.
people would even walk up to you and ask you, if I'm not mistaken, if you're crazy.
And
So
also,
talk briefly about that.
well, that was such a shock. And I expected them to have the love of Christ toward me, and they didn't. And they actually told me to my face that some of them, that I was demon possessed and crazy. I couldn't believe it, I tell you. And that really hurt.
So how did that affect your children, with them, telling your children that you're going to be crazy just like your mama?
Well, actually, it was their children that let you know that the parents had to be talking about me in front of their children, because their children told my children that they were going to be crazy like their crazy mother. And I encouraged my children, and I told them, don't listen to them and not to believe that. That's what I told my children.
So talk about the time that you called the police, finally called the police on your husband, and because he was angry, because he was mad about it, he decided to murder you. So talk briefly about that. I guess we got about 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, anyway, yes, my husband had assaulted my daughter and I, and because he assaulted us, of course, I called the police because I wasn't going to let him attack us another time. So anyway, what happened is, after I called the police told him that he would have to stay somewhere else, that he couldn't stay at the home that night. So he was angry about that. So he called his brother. And while he was with his brother, I had no idea his brother and him were plotting my murder. He asked his brother to buy a rifle and bullets. His brother is an elder too in church. And his brother bought the rifle and the bullets for my husband to murder me with. And I never thought my husband would get to a point like that, where he'd let Satan use him like that and want to murder me for calling the police on him because he attacked me. That was unbelievable.
Because I know, I'm going to say this real quick, that your husband was asked, I assume maybe by the psychiatrist when you were there, or by one of the doctors or nurses or whatever, why did he abuse you like he was abusing you? What did he say?
He said, I did it because I was capable. Capable means you have the power to do something psychologically or physically to someone.
So do you think maybe that's why a lot of men do what they do to their wife, because they have the capability of doing it, and the women sit there and the women take it?
Yes, but I didn't try to take it. I mean, I did wise up later. Like I was all mixed up for a while, because I'm saying, wait a minute, what am I going to do? My husband's supposed to be saved. I shouldn't have to call the police. But then I wised up. Either I called the police or my brains would have been beat out anytime he felt like it. Anytime the spirit moved on him. And I wasn't going to have that. And I had made up my mind by the 40th year of our marriage that because he wouldn't take any counseling. They offered us counseling. He wouldn't take that. He always told them to get me straight. You can't get me without getting us straight. So I had made up my mind during our 40th year of marriage, no kidding, that I was going to divorce him. I wasn't going to go through all of this all over again. And he even threw me out of my own house and told me this is his house and to get out. He threw my daughter and I both out for calling the police on him. And so I had to figure out somewhere to stay while he threw me out the house. And also I hurried up and got some money out the bank, and he was angry about that and said I went into his money. He didn't care if I got hit in the head, was out in the streets or whatever. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Well, Patricia, thank you so much for coming and being a part of the show tonight, for being my special guest tonight. Tell everyone how they can contact you and how they can get your book.
Okay, they can get my book by contacting Patricia Williams at yahoo.com, and I will send them a book.
So y'all, please get the book to hear the complete story. Please order her book. And I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I Heard Ministry, Saturday 4.22 guests. And I want to thank everybody who view the show nationally and internationally. And I would love to hear from you. Please email me at iheardministries@gmail.com. Until next week, let the peace of God reign, rule, and abide in your hearts. I'm Mildred Towns. Thank you for watching.